There is a strange moment we have all experienced, yet rarely question. A moment where something does not sit right with us, where we quietly disagree, or simply do not understand. Yet we still go along with it. Not because we are convinced, but because we assume everyone else is. This is what psychologists call pluralistic ignorance. Imagine sitting in a classroom or a meeting room. You are listening carefully, trying to follow the ideas being explained, holding on to each sentence as it builds into something more complex. But somewhere along the way, something slips. A concept feels incomplete. A detail does not fully land. You sense the gap, but you stay with it, hoping clarity will come. Then the inevitable question arrives. Is there anything unclear? If so, please raise your hand. And in that moment, something subtle yet powerful happens. You do not immediately look inward. You look outward. You scan the room. Faces appear calm. No one seems confused. No hesitation. No raised hands. No visible uncertainty. And suddenly your own confusion begins to feel isolated, personal, almost embarrassing. Because if everyone else understands, then the problem must be you. So you stay silent. The speaker takes the silence as confirmation. Everything seems fine. The lecture continues. The meeting moves forward. And just like that, a shared misunderstanding becomes invisible. But here is where the situation becomes almost unsettling. If you could step inside the minds of the people sitting around you in that same moment, you would likely discover something unexpected. Many of them are experiencing the very same confusion. They too looked around. They too saw no hands. They too assumed they were alone, and chose silence for the exact same reason. No one understands. Yet everyone believes that everyone else does. This is the quiet illusion at the heart of pluralistic ignorance. As social beings, humans are deeply sensitive to the risk of exclusion, the fear of standing out, of appearing uninformed, of losing respect. These are not trivial concerns. They shape how we behave, how we speak, and sometimes how we choose not to speak at all. We constantly observe the people around us, trying to decode what is acceptable, what is admired, what is safe. And in doing so, we begin to adjust ourselves, not to truth, but to perception. We do not align with what we actually think. We align with what we believe others think. And sometimes that belief is completely wrong. Pluralistic ignorance is one of those concepts that sounds abstract at first, but once you see it, you begin to notice it everywhere. It is sometimes linked to what is known as the Abilene Paradox, and in everyday language, it resembles that uncomfortable moment when everyone senses something is wrong. Yet no one is willing to say, "The emperor has no clothes." The term itself was first introduced in 1931 by social psychologists Daniel Katz and Floyd H. Allport. They captured the essence of this phenomenon in a single, striking sentence. No one believes it, but everyone thinks that everyone else believes it. At its core, pluralistic ignorance describes a quiet mismatch between private belief and public behavior. Many people, deep down, may share the same doubts, the same disagreements, even the same discomfort. And yet, each individual assumes that they are in the minority, that others must see things differently, more confidently, more clearly. This mistaken perception creates a powerful social illusion. Because people believe their view is unpopular, they choose not to express it. And because no one expresses it, the illusion grows stronger. What begins as a shared but silent hesitation slowly transforms into what appears to be a unanimous agreement. A consensus that does not truly exist starts to feel real. And once that illusion takes hold, its consequences can become surprisingly serious. Pluralistic ignorance does not remain confined to classrooms or meetings. It extends into moral decisions, social norms, and collective behavior. It can cause individuals to remain silent in the face of injustice, not because they approve of it, but because they assume others do. It can push people toward risky or harmful behaviors, simply because they believe those behaviors are widely accepted. Perhaps most strikingly, it allows certain ideas to survive, not because they are genuinely supported, but because everyone believes they are. In this way, pluralistic ignorance creates a strange kind of social echo. Beliefs that no one truly holds continue to exist, sustained only by the illusion that they are shared. And that illusion, once established, becomes incredibly difficult to break. Pluralistic ignorance rarely appears out of nowhere. It does not begin with deception or deliberate conformity. Instead, it grows quietly out of something much more familiar: our deep tendency to align ourselves with social norms. Every environment we enter carries an invisible set of expectations. A classroom, a party, a meeting room, even a hospital. Each has its own unwritten rules. These are not formally stated, yet almost everyone seems to understand them. You are expected to be composed, to avoid unnecessary conflict, to support others, to respect personal boundaries, and above all, to not disrupt the flow of the group. At first glance, these norms seem harmless, even necessary. They help maintain order, reduce friction, and create a sense of stability. But beneath that surface, they also create a subtle pressure. The pressure to fit in, to avoid standing out, to behave in ways that appear socially acceptable. And this is where pluralistic ignorance begins to take shape. Because when these expectations become strong enough, people start to suppress their own thoughts. Not because they lack opinions, but because expressing them feels risky. A hesitation emerges, not about what is true, but about what is safe to say. Think about something as simple as sitting with a group of friends. If everyone around you is constantly checking their phones, you may find yourself doing the same. Not necessarily because you believe it is the right thing to do, but because doing otherwise might feel awkward, out of place, or even socially costly. In psychology, this tendency is often linked to the desire to act correctly, to do what we believe is appropriate in a given situation. But here is the subtle twist. What we perceive as correct is often shaped not by our own judgment, but by what we think others expect from us. And that perception can be deeply misleading. Some individuals resist this pressure more easily, while others are more sensitive to it. Personality, upbringing, confidence, and past experiences all play a role. But regardless of these differences, no one is entirely immune. The pull of the group, especially in uncertain situations, is a powerful force. The encouraging part, however, is this: pluralistic ignorance is not permanent. Psychologists widely agree that awareness can weaken, even dissolve, this illusion. The moment people realize that others share the same doubts, the same confusion, the same quiet disagreements, something shifts. The fear of speaking up begins to fade. Questions are asked more freely. Opinions surface more naturally. What was once silence becomes dialogue. And in that transition, both individual understanding and collective communication grow stronger. Because the moment we stop assuming and start expressing, we begin to replace illusion with something far more real: shared clarity. In the digital age, pluralistic ignorance has taken on a new and more subtle form, one that unfolds not in physical rooms, but across screens. Social media, which promises expression and connection, often becomes a space where silence is quietly reinforced. Research shows that when users believe their opinions are not shared by their audience, they become far less willing to express them online, especially on controversial issues. What is striking, however, is that this effect does not remain confined to the digital world. Even in face-to-face conversations, simply knowing, or assuming, that friends hold opposing views online can make people less likely to bring up certain topics at all. What begins as a digital hesitation slowly spills into real life. This creates what we might call a modern spiral of silence, where individuals withdraw, not because they lack thoughts, but because they misread the collective atmosphere. And at the heart of this spiral lies pluralistic ignorance, the quiet assumption that others think differently, even when that assumption is false. In a world where public discourse is increasingly shaped by algorithms, feeds, and perceived reactions, our understanding of what most people think has never been more fragile. We are no longer just responding to others. We are responding to our interpretations of others. And those interpretations can be deeply flawed. Which brings us to a final, uncomfortable question. How many of the ideas we stay silent about are actually shared by more people than we think? Because the moment we begin to question that assumption, something shifts. The illusion weakens. The silence cracks. And what once felt like isolation may reveal itself as something entirely different. A room full of people, waiting for someone else to speak first.